That was me. That was me.
Okay. I hope at the same time, so I just assumed it was me.
We good to go? All right. So, I'm going to call to order the April 8th, 2026 Urban Renewal Agency meeting. And Monica, could you do a roll call for us?
Board Member McDougall?
Here?
Board Member Prieden?
Here.
Board Member Ross?
Present?
Board Member Pellerin? Here.
Excellent. Do we have any visitor communication tonight?
We have no one on Zoom? No communication.
Okay, we'll move along. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which really just includes the minutes from our September 24th, 2025 regular meeting.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? No. Okay, great. Motion approved. All right, let's move along to the business. We've got a resolution to approve our agency goals, and City Manager Wheeler is going to walk us through that, please.
Thank you, Board President. So on February 19th, the City Council, the City Sisters met in their goal-setting retreat and discussed goals for the City Council, City of Sisters, but also for the Urban Renewal Agency. And then on March 11th, we reviewed those draft goals as a City Council, but we thought that even though there is an IGA between the City and the Urban Renewal Agency for managing projects and executing on contracts, still appropriate for the Urban Renewal Agency Board to adopt their own goals as well as the budget. And so before you tonight is those draft goals for your final review and approval. Pretty short list for the Urban Renewal Agency as we kind of get down to the final, handful of projects to accomplish here over the next 5 years before we start kind of closing down the district and just paying the debt service. The item coming up after this one is an item that is in the current budget for financing, through debt financing, a lot of these projects that will be continuing in the next fiscal year for the district, but also in the current fiscal year. So, the highlights is obviously Adams Avenue as our major project in the district starting next week. And then public art acquisitions in the downtown, and also public art pedestals as we kind of expand our public art programming with the new public art advisory board. And then wayfinding signage, right? We've been working on the new signage designs and engineering that will be coming to the City Council for approval. So the Urban Renewal District obviously has a lot of those signs, both pedestrian and vehicle, and also the monument signs. And so one goal here is to develop a plan for acquiring and installing signage throughout the downtown. And then under development assistance, we have a continuing goal to explore funds for, or include allocating funds for investments or grants, incentive programs for both our Dark Skies program, but also wildfire resiliency. And that could be property owner assistance for doing defensible space and removing vegetation throughout the downtown. So that goal there is to start exploring that and maybe allocate some funds for the future for providing those financial assistance. So our recommendation tonight is to adopt the goals. I think it's the first resolution for the Urban Renewal Agency this year, so it's 26-01.
All right. Yeah. Anybody have questions? I'll go ahead and start down with Councilor Pellerin.
Nope.
None?
None?
I have no questions.
Okay. And any discussion? With no questions, I'm thinking no discussion, but getting nope, I see no action there. So I would be looking for a motion to approve this resolution.
I move to approve URA Resolution 2026-01.
Can Can I get a second?
I second.
Excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. Resolution passes. Okay, next up, we've got Director Joe talking to us about loan approval, which is basically kind of the mechanism that's going to allow us to use the full amount of funds available through the end of our URA period. So have at it.
Yes, that's right.
Let's talk dollars.
Yeah, this is great. This is kind of monumentous for us as a staff. We have, in my 10 years here, we've done refinancing for debt, but we haven't done full faith and credit borrowing of this magnitude. So pretty big step for us. So just to give you a little background on this, we have, several projects coming up to Jordan's point. We have Adams Avenue, workforce housing, and those total more than $4 million combined. Obviously, we don't have those resources available to us right now, even with the line of credit that we have that's existing. And so we went and pursued some long-term borrowing, and that's largely because we had a lot of those projects coming up in the near term as well. So when we pursued that, we were able to engage with U.S. Bank, which kind of in this background staff report, we had some experience with in terms of due diligence. They're familiar with our urban renewal agency. So there were some efficiencies with kind of their bond counsel, their review of our financial statements and just also the process. So we were able to secure $4.15 million. And the way we came up with that, just as another background, is you have the Urban Renewal Agency in total, you could borrow up to almost $10 million, like $9.8 million, if you remember. And throughout the life of the agency, going back to 2003, we used about 5.7 of that. And so that delta, that remaining is the 4.15. And we also had that vetted with a third party contractor that does a lot of these financial kind of models to make sure that what we have is what's correct, just because of the stakes. So with that, we are obligating the Urban Renewal Agency to borrow $4.15 million, which, yes, again, would fund a lot of these projects going into 2030. And then we'll pay the debt for that following. So that's kind of everything in its simplicity. This is similar to the line of credit that we entered into a couple years ago. And the uniqueness of that in the relationship with the city is a lot of banks don't have a lot of experience with URAs. U.S. Bank does, like I said, but they want to have the backing of the full faith and credit, basically the backing of the city or another, tax reliable jurisdiction. And so that's why there's this intergovernmental agreement between the city and the URA, and the city will basically co-sign, I guess, if you will, this loan. So kind of another uniqueness to a URA that we have to learn with just kind of how these things work. So, and that's kind of the simplicity of it. So we're scheduled to close on April 21st. And it'll happen fairly simultaneously, so we should get the funds there. And then again, like Jordan said, we're going to be starting next week. So we'll be ready to fund that project as it comes.
One thing to also add is we're using the full faith and credit of the city, right? There's basically the backing, the financial strength that the city has versus the urban renewal agency, which makes banks more comfortable using the full faith and credit. The city itself does not have a lot of debt, right? We're looking at upcoming financings and things that we'll need for utilities in the future, but as it stands now, we're in pretty good shape in terms of debt. And to kind of then further show that we're in good financial settings with issuing something like 4.1 or getting a lending of 4.1 is that this is backed by taxing finances in the district. Right? These are not your property taxes that support police and administration and planning. It's from the district, so it's from the additional growth in property tax revenue that we get from the urban district. And so that's about 550.
Yeah. Yep.
530 and 550, I think, is the debt service payments. So, this is a pretty successful urban renewal area, as you can well aware. And so being able to pay that 4.1, we do
Joe had a very nice spreadsheet in there.
Oh, good, yeah, with the
Laid it out.
the annual payments, yeah. And credit to our, or shout out to our placement agent, they kind of staggered those payments, so we could kind of plan on making those, for the most part, after we get our taxes available. So not that we couldn't anyway, but it just helps a little bit, instead of just monthly payments.
How does the 4.65% compare to what's available out there?
Good question. It's very comparable. We did pay a little bit more in interest points, so we can call that debt whenever we want to, so we can basically pay that off earlier. So we did incur a little bit more as a percentage because of that, but yeah, very competitive.
Other questions?
No.
Joe, I've got a question, both for my clarification, because I keep forgetting, and for anybody watching this. So the list of projects that we're still expecting to endeavor,
Yep.
some of them are defined, such as you mentioned the Adams Ave upgrades. Will we be revisiting that during the budget process?
Yeah.
Just to, so that anybody curious about what the URA is funding could see that.
Yeah, good question. We will be doing that because we have solidified these numbers now. So we know what Adams is, we know what the debt financing is, so there's a lot more certainty in some of the numbers. So yeah, we've internally talked about that, so we will be presenting that for sure. Yep.
Great. Okay, this is a pretty straightforward meeting. It doesn't seem like we have any more questions.
Jeff, I do have a comment.
You do? Oh, please.
Yeah, and I would like to give you kudos and staff kudos for figuring out this unique way, going after the bonding too, to allow us to, of the URA, to do some other projects besides the Adams Street improvement project. So that was a priority for me, and I know for the rest of this council, and to work on the part of you and the rest of the staff in this room, and some of the staff who are not in this room, to pull that off. And so, very clever and astute way to do this, and I feel very comfortable moving forward.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment similar, so you stole my thunder a little, but honestly, I look at our staff and Joe and Kim especially. I'm not sure what would happen without them being here and having those different thoughts than other places and being creative. And honestly, city manager and city management as well. So thanks to everybody for doing that. I think that it makes us a lot more flexible at the end as far as after the streetscape money comes out for Adams Avenue. It's a lot smaller pieces after that, but at least it's a defined piece because the money is all solidified, right? So we'll know if an art project comes up that we want to spend money on in the URA, we'll know how much there is, or other projects that come up. So thank you for that.
Anything else?
I move to approve URA Resolution 2026-02.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's unanimous. So motion approved. And that ends our business for the URA. What? Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to end this meeting, and then at 6:30, sorry, being confused by that clock, at 6:30 we will come back together for the regular meeting and go from there. Thanks.